the fact that we have found the answer to that horrible, horrible plague. That was a plague. But we spend $6 billion a year. And from what I hear, it's very well spent, done by professionals, including this great professional right here. That was the thing that you worked hardest on and something that was very close to her heart. So it's, it's something that I think people should start hearing. The World Health Organization, we're just finding more and more problems, and we spend this money really well. There are other ways we can spend the $500 million. That's $500 million. This is $6 billion. But we can find other ways to spend it where people are going to be helped, we think, in a much greater way. We're doing some research on certain people that take a lot of credit for what they do. And NIH is giving away a lot of money, a lot of money. We give away for many years, they give away a lot of money. And some people complain and some people don't. Some people are extremely happy. So we're looking into that also. They're giving away approximately, as I understand it recently, more than $32 billion a year. $32 billion. And so we've been looking at that for a while, and we're going to be having some statements to be made about that. $32 billion a year. It's a lot of money, and we want to make sure it's being spent wisely, and we've been doing that, by the way, and we'll have some statements on that. And those are much bigger numbers than what we're talking about with national. If you look at, with our friends from wherever they come from, 500 million is a lot of money, but it's not a lot compared to the kind of money that we give out. I think over the years, it's been averaging about $32 billion. $32 billion. So we've had our eye on that one for a while. We also talked about the lab in China, where I guess 3.7 million was given some time ago, and we're looking at that very closely. Chief of Staff has that pretty much under control, but it's money that, too bad it got spent there. But that was spent, what year was that, Mark? It was 4 or 5 years ago.
Over the last 6 years.
6 years ago, approximately. So we're looking at that, and that's the lab that people are talking about. All right, so we're looking at a lot of things. There's tremendous waste in our government. We found it in many different ways and in many different forms. And this is one of them. This is one of them. We can spend, I was talking to Dr. Birx, we can spend $500 million, using all of it in a much more efficient manner if we choose to do that. And it'll be to the good of many more people than are getting it right now. But you look at the mistakes that were made, I mean, so late, long after I said we have to close off our country. They were actually against our closing off our country to China. When I did that in January, they were against that. They didn't like the idea of closing off our country. They said it was a bad thing to do, actually. And they've since taken that back. But it was a very lucky thing that we did it, very lucky. We would have had numbers that were very significantly greater. Tony Fauci said that. He said it would have been very significantly greater had we not done that. So we made a lot of moves that were good moves, but it's still a very depressing subject because it's a lot of death. And if it was stopped very early on at the source, before it started blowing into these proportions, you have 184 countries that would have been in a lot better shape. But our country is getting back, and I expect that we're going to be bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. I will take a few questions. Jeff?
Mr. President, you've mentioned, and the doctor has mentioned China a few times today, that clearly suggesting that the data has not been good. And
well, you tell me, do you think that data is good when you see that? Do you think that's correct, okay? Do you honestly believe that's correct?
Pretty dramatic contrast. So my question for
dramatic?
you...
Yeah, it's dramatic.
So my question for you, sir, is...
Why didn't the press, why didn't you people figure that out, though? Why do we have to put up a chart? The number is impossible. It's an impossible number to hit. But why haven't you come up and said that?
The question, sir, is China now cooperating with the United States to figure out what happened, and what do you want from them now?
Well, they said they're doing an investigation, that they're doing an investigation. So let's see what happens with their investigation, but we're doing investigations also. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Thank you, sir. You've spoken, we heard Dr. Birx a moment ago say that every country has a responsibility to tell the rest of the world what's going on. You've talked repeatedly about how this could have been stopped in the past. I know you don't want to telegraph what you would do, but do you think that there should be some consequences if in the end, China was responsible for all of this?
Well, if they were knowingly responsible, certainly. If it was a mistake is a mistake. But if they were knowingly responsible, yeah, then there should be consequences. You're talking about, potentially lives like nobody's seen since 1917. And, the other thing, had we not done what we did in terms of closing, because there is that concept of let's let it ride. But at some point, I'm going to have to, I don't want to embarrass countries that I like and leaders that I like, but you have to see some of these numbers. In my opinion, so we're talking about maybe 60,000 or so. That's a lot of people, but that's 100,000 was the minimum we thought that we could get to, and we will be lower than that number, anywhere from 100 to 220,000 people. But I really believe it could have been billions of people had we not done what we did. We made a lot of good decisions, but one of those things. Go ahead.
Have you ruled out that this was an unknowing situation? Have you ruled
I haven't
out that
ruled
there was
out
knowing?
anything. I want to
Okay.
look at the facts as they come in. No, I want to look at the facts, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Sure.
Last week, you claimed that you're in charge of everything, yet the American people don't understand why you're unwilling to use the awesome powers of your presidency to make American